To give you a brief rundown on Leaving Cert Biology. Okay, so I have just a little presentation here I'm going to go through. So first of all, I'm sure you're aware that after your junior cycle, science splits into 4 subjects. You've got agricultural science, you have physics, chemistry, and then the other one is biology. Okay, so to start off, we just wonder what biology is. So you might already be aware that from studying it from your junior cycle, that biology is a study of life and it's a study of living things. Okay, it's a study of organisms and the environment and how they actually interact with their environment and how all living things on the planet interact with each other. It's a study of all your bodily systems. So even for junior cycle, you would have looked at things like the digestive system, the respiratory system, the circulatory system, the reproductive system, things like that. So you continue on this study as you go into senior cycle. It's a study of genetics and inheritance. So you'll look at things like what makes your DNA, what your DNA is made of, how it behaves, how it works, that when we look at our families and certain characteristics that are passed on from generation to generation. And then you also look at plants as well. So you look at plant structure, how plants behave, how they move, how they reproduce, and things like that as well. Okay. So a question you might ask could be, why would you choose biology? So first of all, it's a very popular subject, not just in school, like across Ireland, it is a very popular subject among the 4 sciences. In KTCS here, we have 4 6th-year biology classes and we have 4 5th-year biology classes as well. So it is a very popular subject to pick for Leaving Cert. Another reason why you might want to choose it is that it's a good follow-on from your junior cycle. So I've already mentioned that during junior cycle science, a branch of that is the biological world. And it takes what you've studied at junior cycle and it looks at it in a lot more detail. It does add a lot more onto the biological world that you would have studied at junior cycle, but we essentially take what you have done and look at it in more depth. There is a practical component to biology as well. So like with junior cycle science and like with the other senior cycle science subjects, there are 22 mandatory experiments that you will have to do over the course of 5th and 6th year. Okay, so it gives you an opportunity to learn by working with your hands. And then I suppose another thing you could use to help you choose biology for your Leaving Cert is that it benefits people with good memory. So the thing about biology is there's an awful lot of theory that's involved in it. There's an awful lot of information to remember. So if you already know that one of your strengths is that you're very good at remembering things, then maybe biology could be a subject that would suit you for your Leaving Cert. Okay, should you pick biology? That's another question. So it's something you should ask yourself. The first thing I will say is don't assume that biology is easy. You always hear this line that biology is the easiest of all the sciences. Honestly, there's no such thing as an easy subject for your Leaving Certificate. If you want to do well in any subject, and that includes biology, you do have to work for it, especially if you want to maintain higher level for your Leaving Cert exam. Okay, so as I've already mentioned, there is a lot of theory that's involved in it. There's an awful lot in the course, an awful lot to remember. There's a lot of definitions, there's a lot of diagrams. There is not just the theory part of it, but then remembering the practical side of things as well. Okay, even though there is mandatory experiments that go with Leaving Cert Biology, the exam at the end of 6th year, when you sit the exam at your Leaving Cert, it is worth 100% of your grade for biology. So other subjects will have projects, or they might have some other coursework that will be weighted at maybe 20, 25, 30%, whatever it is, so that when you sit down to do the exam in June, it's not for 100%. Unfortunately, biology doesn't follow that rule. Okay, as I've mentioned, there is experiments that go with this. So part of the written exam that you will do at the end of 6th year does include a whole section on those experiments. So even though you're not being graded on the experiments as you're doing them throughout 5th and 6th year, they will appear on the exam paper. So I suppose that might alleviate a bit of the stress for the rest of the paper. Another thing you should consider maybe when you're thinking about picking biology, that maybe an aptitude for precision and lab work. So there is lab work involved in this. There's a lot of diagrams involved in this as well. And a good way to make sure that you do well in your lab work and with your diagrams and things like that is to make sure that you're very precise. So I know myself, I'm very meticulous and very particular about drawing certain diagrams. Like, there's just things that I will do and won't do. And they stood to me while I was in school doing biology, and hopefully they'll stand to you as well. So just keep that in mind when it comes to deciding on this subject. Okay. Another thing then, like, do I have to do biology? Is it important? Like all these sort of questions that you will have as you're coming to your subject choice at this point in 3rd year. So it depends really on what you want to do with after school. So for example, if you're looking to go to 3rd level, biology is hugely important for careers such as like anything in the medical profession. So if you're thinking of medicine, of nursing, even healthcare, anything to do with healthcare, anything to do with health, or anything really to do with people would involve a lot of things that goes on inside your body, and you study that in biology. If you're looking to something like leisure, sports, fitness, so even like, physiotherapy or any of those sort of careers, yes, biology will definitely be an important subject to consider for your leaving cert. Agriculture. So we do have agricultural science as a subject in itself, but a lot of that, a lot of what you learn in biology can be translated into agriculture as well, because as I said, you do study a lot of plants. If you're working on the animal side of agriculture, then the anatomy and the physiology parts of the biology course will stand you for that. And then obviously like animal and veterinary science, they will have a heavy input from studying biology at Leaving Cert. But even if it is just a case of studying maybe a beautician course, or if you wanted to be a hairdresser or a barber or something like that, you do study, when you're studying to be, let's say, a beautician, you will look at things like your skin, your nails, your hair. That's all covered, and it's all covered in biology, and it's all part of biology as well. So understanding how the human body works can be very beneficial in a range of things. Another thing then, maybe you mightn't actually have science in mind at all after school, but as I had the last point here on the slide, is that it may be used as an entry requirement for a third level institute. So, for example, you might want to study a course in anything that isn't science somewhere, but they require you to have sat a science subject for your leaving cert. So maybe after watching all of these information videos, you might decide that the science subject you want to pick is biology. Okay, that's basically it. If you do want to know more, you can ask myself, or you can ask any of your science teachers that are in school. All the science teachers we have here in KTCS are all qualified to teach biology for Leaving Cert. So even if they're not teaching biology right now, or they mightn't actually be your science teacher at the moment, feel free to ask them. Another thing you could do is maybe ask older friends or siblings. So you might have an older brother or sister, or you might know somebody who's already in 5th year, or even in 6th year, or has even finished school and has done biology. Ask them for tips or advice or recommendations for that subject for the Leaving Cert. Okay, and then there's also loads of other resources. Like the one that just comes to mind is like Careers Portal, which is what you're on right now. They have a good information section on the Leaving Cert subjects and why you should choose them, or if you should choose them, and things like that I've already mentioned as well. Okay, so I hope you found this little presentation useful. As I said, if you have any questions, you can stop me at any point in the corridor, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. All right, thanks.